everyone, welcome to Crochet State of Mind. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the single crochet stitch. For this swatch, I'm going to need yarn, and I'm using just a small ball of yarn. This is leftover yarn from previous projects. I'm also going to need stitch markers, and I'll explain why we need that in a bit. You'll need a hook. I will be using an 8mm hook. And a pair of scissors for cutting your yarn when you're done with your swatch. So a swatch is just a sample of your work. So to start, we're going to start every project, almost every project in crochet starts with a slip knot. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with a slip knot and a chain. That chain is going to be what we call the foundation of your work. So it's the starting chain on which the rest of your project is built. So let's go ahead and get started with the slip knot and the foundation chain. To create a slip knot, this is how I do it. I take my yarn, I wrap it around my finger like this, and I just pull it through like this. Okay, so it's going to leave me a little loop like that. And I'm going to insert my hook in there. And this loop that's on your hook never count as a stitch unless explicitly told so. Okay, so for the most part, it does not. You do not count this as a stitch. So we're gonna start. This is how I wrap my yarn. There are different ways of wrapping a yarn. You can do it like this, how I do it. So I wrap it around my pinky and then underneath my middle finger and my index, like so, and I just pull. Right, so this is how I feed my yarn and get more yarn as I progress through the chains. So you can hold it like this. You can also do it with the other finger. So instead of underneath my pinky, I can do it underneath my ring finger like this. I also, when the yarn is too thin, I use this because I have a better grip. It's tighter. So it really depends. So for this, I'm just going to use this. So now I'm going to use my hook, okay, and I'm going to grab my yarn, right? This action is called yarning over, okay? So I started like this. I took my hook and I grabbed the yarn, making sure that the yarn goes in here, inside. This section is called the throat of the hook, okay? So you want to use the throat to grab the yarn. So this motion is called a yarn over, okay? So yarn over. Pull the yarn through that loop that you created, and you've got one chain, and we call this a chain, right? So the foundation chain is a bunch of chain, and we're going to do 10. So I'm going to do a square of 10 by 10. So 10 single crochets in rows and 10 rows of single crochet. Okay, so let's do this again. Here's my slip knot that I created. I wrap my yarn around my finger, and now what I'm going to do is create that first chain. So again, I take my hook, wrap it around, making sure that it rests inside the throat of the hook, and I'm going to pull it through. One piece of advice: you want the loop that you're going to bring your yarn through to be loose. You don't want it too tight, because if it's too tight, you'll have a hard time bringing the hook in. So you want to leave, and you also don't want it too loose. So you don't want it like this. You don't want it so loose that you have wonky looking loops, okay? We don't want that. So again, I'm inserting my hook in the slip knot that I created, and I'm going to yarn over, pull my yarn through that loop, and I've got one chain. And we're going to do this again for a second time. That's 2. Again, yarn over, pull it through. That's 3. And you can see I'm starting to form that chain. Okay, we've got 3. 1, 2, 3. And how we can tell is by the V's. If I stretch this, you can see V's. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I've got 3 and I want 10. So 4, 5, 6, 7, and again, I'm just yarning over, pulling it through. So that'll be 8, yarn over, pull through, 9, yarn over, pull through, 10. And now we've got a chain of 10. Now I made these rather loose so you can see what they look like. You can make them tighter, right? Just know that you're going to go back through these. So if you make it too tight, you'll have a hard time inserting your hook in there, especially a hook this size. So this is an 8mm hook. You will have a hard time inserting your hook back in there if your chains were too tight, okay? But so that's my foundation. I've got 10. And typically, you're supposed to, most crocheters, actually I shouldn't say most, but how we learn, so I learned to crochet when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I went to Catholic school and I learned how to crochet there, crochet and sew. And so what I was always taught was that you always add one more chain for a single crochet, and that chain is going to be your turning chain. This is what's going to give you the height that you need to complete the next row, okay? Now, we're gonna do it that way, okay? We're gonna do I just chained one, and now this is what I just chained. We're gonna skip that. We're gonna go in the second one and insert our first single crochet, okay? And this is what I mean. See how tight this is? Because it's so tight, I'm having a hard time inserting my hook, okay? So it's still doable, but you may struggle with, okay? So what I just did, and let me just go back so you can see what I'm doing here, okay? Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so we're gonna do 10. And now we're gonna add that turning chain, which is that 11th chain, okay? But that 11th chain does not count. We're gonna skip that and we're gonna go in that 10th. So remember, you want 10 single crochets, right? So we have 11 chains, we skip the 11th, and in that second chain, so 1, 2, second chain from my hook, we don't count this one, 1, 2, this is where I'm gonna insert my first single crochet. So how do you do a single crochet? So to do a single crochet, you go in the loop, right? So rather in the chain that you previously built, and you insert your hook into that chain. You yarn over again, so we already know this. We pull it through, but we pull it through that one loop, and we've got two loops on our hook. And now we yarn over again and we pull it through both loops. And we have just created our first single crochet. Remember I talked about stitch markers in the beginning? I like to use stitch markers to mark the beginning and end of my row. So this is the beginning of my row, and this will be the first stitch of row 1. The foundation chain typically doesn't count as a row. It's just a foundation row. Your first row is your first row of stitches. So your first single crochet. Your first row of single crochet is row 1, right? Because that's where we actually started doing single crochet. So I've done my first single crochet and I've marked it with the stitch marker. So when I come back around, I'll know, oh, this was the beginning of the previous row. Okay, so my second single crochet is going to be in that second loop, right? From that foundation chain, sorry, that second chain. So we're going to insert our hook in here. We're going to yarn over, pull through, and we've got 2 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and we're going to pull through both. And now we've got 2 single crochets, and we're going to repeat that. So this is our third single crochet that we're about to do. So again, insert your hook, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over again, pull through both. And now you've got 3 single crochets, and you can see you're starting to form V's. V, V, V. Okay, so let's keep going. We're working on our 4th single crochet. So I take my hook, I insert it, yarn over, pull through. I've got 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both. Okay, and look at what I'm doing with my hook, right? Look what I'm doing. My hook is not constant, right? It's dynamic, it's moving. And the reason why it's moving is to facilitate the yarning over and bringing the yarn in. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochets already done. Okay, so let's work on our 5th one. So again, I take my hook, okay, and I have it like this. I insert it, yarn over. See, my hook is now facing down. The throat is facing down. I bring it through. I turn my hook over, okay, yarn over, pull. And you see when I'm pulling through, my hook is facing down. And this is so that, you know, my hook can go into that loop easier. Okay, so now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets. And we're just going to keep doing this until we have 10. So this would be 6, 7, 8, 9, and at first this may be hard to do because it's so small, and every crocheter has this issue. This is normal, but as your work grows, it's going to become more sturdy. Okay, right now it's a little flimsy and it can be difficult to maneuver. And so now we're going to insert into our last. And how do I know it's my last? Well, I can count, right? This is a small enough project where I can count each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, what's on your hook, the loops on your hook don't count, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we need one more. And right here in that last one, this is where we're going to insert our 10th single crochet. So insert my hook, yarn over, pull through. I've got 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through, and I just completed my 10th single crochet. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I've got 10. Now I just completed row 1 of my single crochet, and now we're going to turn our work to start row 2. Okay, so when you work in single crochet or half double crochet, really in crochet, if you're right-handed, you're working from right to left. Okay, I'm right-handed, obviously, so we're working this way. Okay, so I just completed here, right? I'm not going to work this way, so naturally I have to turn my work. Okay, now some people turn their work like this, some do it like this. Whichever method you want to use to turn your work, just make sure that you stick to that, right? Because this is always going to be the same if you turn it this way. Okay, but if you turn it like that, your edges are going to be, you know, odd. So I have my 10 single crochets in my first row, and I'm going to turn like the pages of a book, right? When we read a book, we turn like this from right to left. So I'm going to turn my work from right to left, and I still got this hook on my this loop on my hook. Okay, now I've got 10 here. Okay, now remember to add height, you can chain 1. Okay, so I'm showing you how to single crochet using chain 1 to make your turn. 99% of the time, I do not use the chain when I turn it. You'll see that if you're already following me, you'll see that in my other projects, I typically don't use turning chains. But I'm teaching you how to single crochet the way I was taught how to single crochet, and we add a turning chain. And the turning chain does just that. It helps you turn and adds height to your project. Okay, so I have 10. I added another chain, and that's my turning chain. And remember, we skipped that turning chain. That turning chain does not count as a stitch. Okay, it is not a single crochet. It's just a turning chain, right? It just helps us get that height. So now we're going to go here. This is where we're going to insert our hook. This is going to be our first single crochet of row 2. So same thing. We're going to insert our hook, but this time we're inserting under the V. So you see these V's that were created when we formed the single crochets? We're going to insert under both. Now, the reason why you want to do that is because depending on where you insert your hook, you're going to end up with a different pattern or different look. Okay, so if you insert it under here and you do it consistently, you're going to have single crochet work that has lines that are very visible, right? And that's fine if you have a project like that. I actually think it's pretty. If you insert it in the back loop, you're going to have what we call ribbing. So you're going to have, it's going to be stretch here. You're going to have this rib knit-like look, okay? So a normal single crochet is under both loops of that V, right? So make sure you insert under both, right? See this? This. Okay, so We did our turning chain, and now we're going to work on row 2, our first single crochet of row 2. Insert my hook under both, yarn over, pull through. I've got 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, and that is my first single crochet of row 2, and I'm going to mark that with a stitch marker. Okay, I've been crocheting on and off since I was 9 or 10. Like I said, I learned how to crochet in grade school. I'm now in my 30s, so you can do the math, and I still use stitch markers. And the reason why I use stitch markers is because I hate having to frog my work. So frogging is where you have to undo what you did, okay? And even, sorry, even with the most seasoned crocheters, sometimes we can miss a stitch, right? Or we can add a stitch, and then your work becomes something else. It starts as a rectangle or as a square, it ends up into a trapezoid or a triangle. And so to avoid that and not waste any time, I'd rather use stitch markers, and it keeps my work straight, keeps my edges straight, make sure that I'm not adding or removing stitches unnecessarily. Okay, so I've got my first single crochet, and we're just going to keep single crocheting along this row. So single crochet number 2, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through. I've got 2 loops on my hook, yarn over. Okay, so that's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Okay, and this is what we have so far. Okay, it's coming along slowly but surely. So we've got 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, and this is what I was talking about earlier, right? Because I marked this stitch, I know that this is my last stitch of the row, right? So I'm not gonna go past this. I'm just gonna go in it, and this is number 10. Okay, and so this is what we have so far. Okay, all right, so now turn my work. We're gonna start row 3. Okay, so again, that turning chain to add height, we skip it, go into this one here, and we're going to start single crocheting. Okay, from this point I'm going to go a little bit faster. Okay, so I marked it so I know that when I come back, this will be the end of the previous row and the beginning of the new row. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you feed my yarn. 6, 7, 8. Okay, so you can kind of see. 9 and 10. Okay, I know this is my last one because I marked it with a stitch marker. Now you could just count, and that's fine, but when your project requires more stitches, so more than 10, let's say 50 or 100 or 250, you obviously don't want to count every single row, so stitch markers are going to help you. So this is what we have so far. Okay, so we're just going to keep doing this until we get to 10 rows. Okay, Okay, so I've completed row 9, and now we're going to start the final row, row 10, right? So I'm done here. Turn my work. Remember, we chain 1 to add the height. So chain 1. We do not do anything with that chain 1. We insert it right here. That first single crochet is going to be right here. So 1, 2, second chain from the hook. Okay. Insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. This is our first single crochet of the final row, row 10. And we're just going to keep doing this until the end, and we'll be done with our single crochet swatch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and remember, this is our last because we marked it with the stitch marker. And 10. And here we have it. So now we've got a nice square. So we've got 10 single crochets, 10 rows. Okay. So the rows, I can show you how to count the rows. So this, we're done here. And real quick, when you're done with your swatch or your project, meaning you're done, you're not going to add any more rows, you're not going to add anything else. So you want to take your scissors and you want to cut, leave enough to weave in. Okay. And so make sure you have the number you wanted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And with that last one that you did, you're going to do almost like you're doing another chain. But this time you're going to pull all the way through and then just pull, and then you can cut. Okay. Rather you can weave in, which that's going to be another video. But now we're done. We've got, and I can take this out now. Okay. So I've got my single crochet swatch completed. And you can see, here's a close-up of what we have here. Now, these right here, you get these from the turning chain. So that adding one chain at the end of your row to turn after you turn your work, or for some people before they turn their work, well, that's what it creates. It creates these right here. I personally don't like these, okay? Which is why in most of my work, you'll see that I do not use turning chains. So instead of chaining 1, I'll just turn my work and insert my first stitch into the very last stitch. No turning chains. But again, this is how I learn how to crochet, right? And I think this is how most people learn how to crochet. You always chain 1 before you turn or after you turn in order to start your second row. So this is what we have here. Now, as far as the rows, this was the foundation row, which does not count as a row, right? Just doesn't, as far as if you're counting the number of rows you have, you do not count the foundation row as one. At least I don't, right? Your first row starts with where you started actually inserting single crochets. And so that would be here, okay? And you can tell by the upside down V's that you see here. Okay, I'm not sure if you can tell. Let's see. This is how I know that this is a row, okay? So this would be row 1, okay? This would be row 2, right? So one row has the V's that are upside down, so they look like this. The next row would be the other way, so the correct V. The next would be upside down, okay, like this. The next would be like this, okay? So that's how I count my rows. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 rows, okay? This side of the project is what we call the wrong side, okay? The wrong side, and this is the right side. You may think, I don't see a difference, right? What's the same? Well, one trick. This is how I learned. Typically, when you start crocheting and you have your slip knot, you have this tail, okay? Now, obviously, I remember that I started here, okay? So I know I ended here because it looks different from here, right? So this is where I started, okay? Look at where your, the beginning of your slip knot, right? That initial slip knot yarn. Where is it, okay? If it's on your right side, right? This is my right hand. If it's on your right side, this is the wrong side. If it's on your left, then it is your right side, okay? So the way to remember is, where did I start my work? Okay, where's my foundation row? Where's the ends that I left when I created the slip knots? If that is on my right side, this is the wrong, so it's opposite. If it's on the right side, you're looking at the wrong side of your work. If it's on your left side, you're looking at the right side of your work, okay? We're talking about the ends, not the beginning, not the end, okay? The beginning of your work, that foundation row, there's that end that you left. Okay? This is how I remember, okay? So I hope you found this useful. This is how you do single crochet. I'm gonna have another video on how to do double crochets using this same yarn and hook, okay? If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section, and happy crocheting. Bye-bye.